World News TV with Reggie Kearney and Chair Ann Tappan, bringing you news and politics. Real World News TV, every Tuesday night at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, 7:30 p.m. Central, and 8:30 on the East Coast. Real World News TV, the most interactive, longest-running radio and television show under the Hot Topics Talk Radio Network. Real World News TV, where your comments and your views are welcome. Real World News TV, news for us, by us, that affects us all. Real World News TV. By us, that affects us all. Real World News.
Good evening and welcome to Real World News TV. I'm your host, Shara Ann Tappan McCabe, and joining me this evening is Reggie Kearney. Our illustrious producer is offline today, feeling a little under the weather, and we wish her well in a speedy recovery. How are you, Reggie?
Well, I'm doing fine. And yourself? How you feeling on that?
I feel like Tuesday. I think that sums it up. So we have so much to unpack from last week. It's really been unbelievable, from the presidential debate between Trump and Biden and Trump's demeanor and juvenile antics during the debate, culminating in a very assertive statement that white supremacists should stand back and stand by, to flash forward a few days after that, him suddenly coming down with COVID, which there seems to be mixed feelings whether or not that's real or not. What are your thoughts, Reggie?
Well, I hope it's real. I mean, because when you look at the fact that over close to 214,000 people have died, I hope it's real. I mean, the thing is, you can't play with people's feelings like that. I don't care if you are trying to win an election, So with the flags falling at the White House now, I'm pretty sure that he has it, but he's not as well as he puts on to be, because he's made they give him, like the day. Now I'm looking at the readout tonight with Joe Reed. That medicine he was on, only 10 other people have been given the opportunity to get on that medicine, that cocktail that he was using. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it just shows that, hey, they're going to take care of him. They're going, that's how it's going to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, they'll take care of him. He's the president, whether we like him or not. Whether he's good at his job or not, he's considered a national asset, and I get that. And I put that in quotes.
The national what?
Asset, right? But my initial reaction was, it's complete and utter bullshit. It seemed too convenient. There were so many times over the last 6 months that he had potentially been exposed. It seemed particularly miraculous that he didn't catch it up to now, if in fact he did catch it. Then I thought, as you say, the flies started dropping, and more people, Miller, his White House spokesperson, and Christie and other people, members of his administration, have come down with it. The Pentagon has basically become a cluster fuck, if you will, of people who've tested positive. And on the one hand, he's created an environment where we automatically doubt anything he says. So it's his fault that I believe, or that I give a little bit of credence to some of the conspiracy theories that we've heard, that it's bullshit and that he's using it to manipulate voters, to gain some sympathy or what have you, or to come out of it afterwards miraculously healed, so that his cult neo-right, neo-evangelical followers who claim that he's the second coming of Christ can turn around and say, see, he is God's anointed. He was meant to be in power because he beat COVID. That aside, I do, and it goes against my belief system to say this, but I have a hard time not saying it, I do resent the fact that he hasn't had to suffer like so many American families have, and so many families across the globe have. And while I do doubt that he's as healthy and spry as they claim, one thing I do know, and that is if he did in fact have COVID, if he does in fact have COVID, tests have shown the shedding period for COVID can be up to 30 days, which means the length of time that you can potentially be contagious and affect other people is a maximum of 30 days so far with the tests. The flu is about 2 days. Once you're knee deep into the flu, you may be very gross, but you're no longer contagious. But those first 2 days, you're very contagious. So if in fact he has it, then he has put his Secret Service and everybody that he's been exposed to and everything that he's laying his grimy little hands on in the White House, he's putting everybody at risk. So when I was thinking about the topic for tonight's show, and we described it as sort of the mental acrobatics that his supporters have to go through right now this week, my thought was, first, it's a hoax. It doesn't exist. No one has died. The media is lying. The hospitals are empty. Now it's the Democrats purposefully infected him, and it's real, but it's not as bad. It's basically like the flu. You know, how they reconcile all of these bizarre positions that they've had over the last 6 months about the seriousness of this pandemic, it's just mind-boggling. You would think that they would be exhausted with the mental backflips and bending that they have to do to make their narrative work.
Well, the thing is, it's going to be hard for them to make it work because so many people are getting sick at this time. You know, I mean, you don't take joy in seeing people get sick. I mean, you know, you never do. But then Stephen Miller got sick tonight. You know, but like I said, you don't take joy in seeing people get sick.
I'm not joyful. I'm just not mad. How about that?
But the thing is, you know, for so long he took this thing as he didn't take it seriously. Okay, then when you sit, okay, we done had a pandemic that's closed down the world. Okay, basically, okay, every country in this world has been affected by some way in some form. But then you shut down the White House. I mean, the center of all the world politics, you shut down the White House because you want to act a fool, and you know, and you can't humble yourself. You know, you can't humble yourself. I mean, like they're saying, they don't know when he became positive. Okay, I mean, you can trace it back to Saturday before last when they were on the Rose Garden, you know, announcing or introducing the potential justice. But how many days before then was he positive?
Exactly.
You know, because he doesn't want to talk. I mean, he comes out yesterday and tells the CDC to stand down as far as contact tracing. They'll take care of it.
Who's they? The White House?
Whoever they is.
They don't know their ass from their elbow with respect to science or contract tracing or anything. So what they mean by that?
When I was in court today, I was talking to another fellow judge, and her daughter's girlfriend's husband is a Secret Service agent. He told her to take the kids and leave home because he has to come back home and quarantine for 10 days. The Secret Service and anybody who's just in a support role as far as supporting the White House, they are livid because no one is telling them nothing. Everything they get is on TV from the news. You know, these guys, you know, you got to call your wife up and say, look, you got to take the kids and y'all got to stay somewhere else for 10 days. I mean, that's crazy. He doesn't care anything about putting other people's lives in harm's way.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Which again takes me back to those mental acrobatics. Like now they're trying to position him as more qualified than Biden merely because he supposedly contracted COVID and supposedly beat it. Therefore, he knows more about COVID and is better prepared. And, you know, to flip the script like that, he's better prepared because he was stupid enough not to follow common sense precautions and got sick. And that makes him a better candidate than someone who took all reasonable precautions, listened to the scientists, listened to the CDC, and actually gave a shit about the people around him. It's just It's truly mind-boggling, and it, unfortunately, it just takes me back to the center of his support. And that after you look at everything else, which you can easily determine is bullshit, all of his policies and his alleged gains and unemployment and international relations and all of that nonsense, at the core, it all comes down to racism. And I think that his supporters are either blatantly racist or they don't have a problem with it because it doesn't affect them, which just makes them racist as well.
I think it's a mixture of both. I mean, it's like Sunday here in the town I stay in, they took a bus up to Bethesda on Sunday. Okay, then the guy who organized the bus to take people up to Bethesda to Walter Reed, he does a lot of work with that guy in the White House. Okay, so I call him. I tell him he's 45's lapdog. Okay, that's how that's how I tell him now. I think he does a lot of stuff in the community as far as giving to nonprofits and a lot of African American nonprofits, but I still think he's racist. I think he does stuff in the community just to do it, to make himself try to look good. But he's so up into Trump's that I mean he'll fall to hell and back. So he took a bus load of about 45 people. So they took 45 people up there to stand up there, wave the little flags and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's a mixture of both. I think some of them are racist and some of them don't care about how he operates.
Because
they don't give a about us. So about
exactly. And to me, that just makes you a passive racist if you're willing to accept it, because you're not unless you're a part of the 1% and who benefited from the tax legislation that he passed and tax breaks for the wealthy and tax breaks for corporations and whatnot. I don't see how anybody on the ground level benefited outside of the occasional little pockets of groups that he might have done something for PR purposes. And now you've got this stand back and stand by comment that he made. And it was probably the most cognizant, present moment he had during that debate. He knew exactly what he was saying. And to backpedal later and say he doesn't even know who the Proud Boys are, when he and members of his administration have been in pictures with them, with the leadership. He's reposted their tweets. So either you're saying you're an idiot and you don't know what you're reposting and by whom, or you're a racist asshole and you're telling white supremacists in this country to stand by armed and at the ready if you lose this election. So that was an extremely stomach-dropping, concerning statement that he made. And then immediately afterward, the Proud Boys posted on their website with their chests all puffed up, the president gave us an order, stand by. And I
was reading an article on that leader over the weekend, a person of color. But then at the same time, I realized too that a lot of Cuban Americans, they lean towards the Republican side. But still, he's saying that he joined a group of idiots on his own. Nobody forced him. They treat him just like he's one of the boys and all that kind of stuff. I think the only reason they let him stand up there because he's a person of color, and that's the only reason.
I think that they have some people of color in their ranks, but I suspect, excuse me, that is only so that they can, maintain this narrative that they're anti-big government and they're not really a racist organization. They're just anti-big government and pro-gun.
Yeah, the Southern Poverty Law Center has them down as a terrorist group.
Oh yeah, 100%. And the guy who started the organization was like, "We will kill you. We have no problem." There's no doubting. And every once in a while, somebody will come back to me and say, "But they have black members." Doesn't mean a thing, because if the shit hits the fan tomorrow and they're ordered to no longer stand by, those people they're probably going to be the first to go because they're trained in arms And eventually they're going to realize what their real agenda is.
Let me tell you something. If the guy loses the race on November 3rd, okay, which we probably won't know probably a couple of days later or a week later, them little wisps are gonna take they're gonna turn little tails around, go back into their holes, okay? Because it's easy to talk your junk now between now and the time the election comes, okay? But if he were to call them Proud Boys or girls or whatever they call themselves up to the White House to be a front to try to have them maintain government, them knuckleheads ain't gonna leave their homes, okay? They might leave their homes through YouTube and Facebook, but they're not gonna leave their homes, okay? There's a lot of rhetoric going on out there now. Now you have a few in different areas of the country that are gonna start something, but when you look, they come over to the East Coast. This is a whole different group of black folks now. We're not our grandparents or great grandparents, okay?
Mm-hmm.
You know, so any problems they're going to have intimidation going to take place in North Dakota that has probably maybe 2 African Americans or something like that, states like that up in the upper Midwest, upper Western states, Oregon, stuff like that, you know. But they're not gonna put themselves on the line to go against the United States government.
I would like to hope so. I would like to hope so. You know, what worries me are all of those instances, and there's been more than 2, where armed militia will go to government offices and stand there and intimidate the elected officials without any ramifications, without arrests, without anything. Well, and to me, that was a trial run.
Mm-hmm. Well, last night down in Texas, you know, you heard another African American male was killed in Texas over the weekend. No reason out whatsoever, you know. And the guy was fired, and he has been charged with murder. A white police officer that was proud racist, because like he said, all he did, he tased the guy, and then he just turned around and just shot him. You know, senseless shooting. But they were having a march last night in the little town in Texas. Okay, they were just peaceful. They were just minding their own business. They weren't doing a thing. Here comes up in the crowd a fat white guy with an assault rifle. Okay, just walked right up into the crowd. Some of them wanted to whip his butt, but some of them cooler heads prevailed because I don't care if you are 50 or 60 or 70 deep out there, somebody with an assault rifle can do some damage. But the police did arrest him last night. I guess they're going to charge him with intimidation because that's basically what he was doing.
Completely.
You know, he was just basically walking through the crowd, knowing that his presence would upset some people. Mm-hmm. And he was just going to do the little boy action like the little boy did up in Minnesota. He was just going to do one of those actions just to try to start something.
Look, people have lost their mind over the last 4 years. When I see some of these people, these racists, the way they are acting out, you know, they have literally lost their mind. And you see some videos where Black folk are like, "Don't say it again. I'm not the one," and you know they'll catch them on video smacking them down or whatever. And I mean, it's horrible to see, and I laugh a little bit because I think, you know, how brazen and what little sense of self-preservation these people have to think that they can do that with everyone, and especially when they're by themselves.
Well, look,
something's just not right.
Somebody made a shirt. I'm gonna order this shirt. It said, Don't stand back and stand by and get your ass whooped, okay?" I love it because some of them, that's what they're doing. You know, they've got this attitude where I think what it is, a lot of them have the attitude is that if I do something that the white community is going to come back me up, they're going to run to my aid. Be stupid, okay? Just really be stupid. And think Billy Bob can come run out of his house with his guns and stuff to support you. And then it's a big tank sent up there when Billy Bob get there. Billy Bob's just going to turn around right quickly and run and get back in his car. And I think that's what the attitude is. If I start something, then everybody's going to run and take care of me and going to help me out.
Hi, sis. It's just unfathomable. So I still don't know what to believe, what part is true, what part isn't with respect to Trump or these other folks testing positive. Because the fact of the matter is this administration and all of his supporters and his front men, his front mouthpieces, have made it abundantly clear over the last 3 years or however long each has independently worked for this administration that they're willing to lie. And so if he were lying about catching COVID and getting over it miraculously in 72 hours, when no one else has, I could easily see Conway and Miller and Christie and these other people lying to help Trump save face. Because initially, when it first came out, there was a high percentage of people who did not believe it. Then you started to get this trickle. And it's 50-50. It's totally reasonable to think that they would have caught it because they were all acting stupid and not taking precautions and not wearing masks and sharing the same mic. But it's also believable to me that they're all lying.
Well, this is the thing, and I think there's some validity there. Everyone, for some strange reason, this has been like a cult following, just like Jim Jones was, okay? Even though they know he's wrong, they still follow the BS that he dishes out, okay? You know you need to have a mask on. I don't give a, you know who you are, okay? You need to have a mask on, okay? They don't realize that, they were putting the children in harm's way, those children of the justice to be. They were putting those kids in harm's way because they want to look like, hey, I can just take this. It's not going to touch me. It's not going to bother me, okay? I was looking at the readout tonight, and one of the doctors was on there said, if you really look at the guy from last night, after he walked up the steps, if you look at the way he was holding his shoulders up, that was a sign that he was trying to gather himself, get the air in his lungs that he needed to have in his lungs.
But he always watches. He always stands like that.
No, he wasn't down, like he wasn't bent over. He was standing straight up, okay? Like he was tight. He was getting a tightness about himself. And she said that's a sign of someone that's having problems breathing. Now this is my thing. If he can do whatever he wants to do. If he want to fall over the railing, dead, that's on him. But don't tell other Americans that, hey, well, only 100,000 people die every year of the flu. COVID is no more, it's just like the flu. Just live with it. When we've had more people, the number of people who have died with the flu in the last 5 years doesn't even equal out to the number of people who died of COVID in the last 6 months, okay?
I was just going to say that, exactly.
Yeah, so the thing is, he's lying. You got people who are ignorant that are willing to follow this man into the pits of hell just because he said don't wear a mask.
Go right ahead. They're welcome.
And like you said, it's a lot of stupidity with all of this.
Yeah.
It's a lot of stupidity. How you're just an idiot. I don't care if you got a college degree or a master's or PhD. If you follow him and not wearing a mask, you're just an idiot. And then he's hurting the feelings of the people who have lost loved ones.
Exactly. It's insulting to their memory for him to stand up there and say, I beat this in 3 days. It's not so bad. When people have suffered weeks at home or in hospitals, on ventilators, separated from their loved ones, died without being able to hold their loved ones' hands. And he saunters out of the hospital in 3 days, infecting everybody. It's just, he is not an example of anything other than what not to do and not to be.
Yeah. I mean, it was a lady on the news tonight, again on the readout, and she has been dealing with this thing almost ever since it started. She's out of the hospital, but she's been back in the hospital because she couldn't breathe. She's on the same steroids that he's on, and she said her life is just miserable. She can't get well for nothing.
So that's why
And she's been dealing with this thing since March.
Yeah.
But they gave him some experimental drugs that nobody else can get.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing. But like they said, there's a grace period. Okay. And no telling where he'll be at next week.
Well, this is true. You look at what happened. Was it Herman Cain?
Yeah.
He was infected. He went to the hospital. He was doing better. And I think he died in like 2 weeks, knock on wood.
But see, this is the thing. They didn't give Mr. 999 the same drugs that they gave him.
Yeah. Well, does that surprise you?
Yeah, and that was the difference. Herman has had cancer, has beat cancer, but he was being an idiot.
But also, look, I mean, Colleen Hervé makes a very valid point. Trump has an abundance of pre-existing conditions. He's pushing 80. He's probably got high cholesterol. He's fat. I wouldn't be surprised if he has some heart issues again, because he's got to carry all of that weight. I wouldn't be surprised if he had diabetes because of the junk diet that he eats. We'll never know, because we've never seen the factual doctor's report. He paid that quack to write that fake letter when he was running or after he won. So it just seems, not that I wish ill on anyone, but it seems incredibly unjust that somebody of his age and condition could saunter away from this in 3 days when there were people healthier, bless you, healthier than him, maybe as old, maybe one or two underlying conditions, who passed. And there were younger people than him who passed from this. So that's why I vacillate back and forth between believing this or not.
But the thing is, you got to understand, he's at a hospital that is probably one of the best hospitals in the country. When you take away the John Hopkins and the Mayo clinics and places like that, he's in one of the best hospitals in the country. I mean, it's a lot of stuff that they probably gave him that they probably not even giving to the general public. Okay,
some of those drugs, if I understand correctly, actually have a negative impact on brain function.
The steroids do. The type of steroid he's taking right now can affect him mentally. Somebody was saying today they think he's having a mental breakdown. If you look at his actions from yesterday and the things he's done today, it's like, okay, they said he didn't tell nobody he was going to stop negotiations with the Democrats concerning another relief package. He just went to his usual Twitter and said, hey, it's over. We don't want to do. I'm going to tell my people we're not going to do this no more. We're just going to concentrate on the Supreme Court. And look at his addicts. Look at what he did last night, making his little public announcement video last night. Look at that. You got the photographer standing behind him, taking pictures of him waving at the birds flying across in front of the Washington Monument.
25th Amendment. 25th Amendment.
But the thing about it, this what should happen. They should take him, all the Republicans that love him to death, and put them in a room together, seal it tight, and let them hug and kiss on each other and get rid of each other. Okay? Because they know that this man has problems. They've known from day one that he was a risk and a liability. But they still stuck with him. They gave him everything he wants to give. They want to give him.
So let's backpedal a second and talk about the debacle that was that debate. Did you see any of it?
Yeah, I stumbled it. I threw up a couple times and had a little bark bag next to me. But it was ridiculous, okay? Because this is what the little Pillsbury doughboy who's in the hospital now, ran himself to the hospital because he got it, he had asthma in the past, told 45 that one way to get to Joe Biden, because Joe Biden has had a history of stuttering. He got past it. If you keep yelling, keep him frustrated, and make him mad, he'll start stuttering. He won't be able to get his thoughts out.
Yeah, that was clear in the beginning when all he was doing was interrupting. And the funny thing is, immediately after the debate, you had these right-wing news sources spinning the narrative and saying that Trump didn't get his full allotment of time. Biden kept interrupting him. And people were buying into that who watched the debate. I'm like, either you didn't watch this debate.
They did. They saw what they wanted to see. 72 times versus 12 times or 21 times, something like that. You know, I mean, the guy was off the hook. I'm surprised Chris Watson just jumped up on the stage and started a fight.
Oh, he looked about ready. I remember when he said to him, "Can we please?" And I don't know if you saw this, but I posted. I was recording snippets of it and posting it on social media, and he said, "You know, Mr. President, can you please adhere to the rules of engagement that you and your team agreed to, which is 2 minutes? You know, can we do that?" And then he moved to ask Biden a question, and Trump starts speaking as though he's going to say, "Yeah, I can do that." And Chris Wallace turns back to him and says, "That was a rhetorical question. Like, I don't need you to answer it. I just need you to follow the rules. Like, zip it." So, and I could see, look, I can't imagine any moderator being able to handle that situation because Trump has no respect for anyone, you know, and, you know, obviously that when Biden said, "Will you please shut the hell up?" And when Trump looked with all seriousness at Biden and said, "Don't ever use the word smart with me." I mean, there were some comedic moments.
Look, that's when I would have looked at and said, "You remember your professor at University of Pennsylvania? He said you were the dumbest effing person that he had in his class."
Yep.
You know, he don't need to use the word smart. Hey, look, I was looking at Teresa Edgerton Thompson. She said, "Keep telling you people, this thing has serious mental issues. Racism has affected his brain. I wish no ill will to anyone. However, he is trying to kill all with no regrets." And that's what he's doing. And his idiot following, they follow him. They're going to follow him to their grave.
100%.
You know,
if he could nuke certain states in this country, I have no doubt that he would. The man is certifiable. Yeah. And he has no business. He never had any business being in charge of anything, let alone the country. What were your thoughts on Biden? Did he accomplish anything outside of maintaining his cool under extremely annoying and frustrating circumstances? Did he accomplish anything?
No. Okay, look, let me put it to you this way. I'm going to vote for Biden, okay? Because they're going to show ain't going to vote for that little orange head thing in there, you know. So he has my vote. But this is the thing. And let's be serious. At times, Biden was working hard to get his thoughts across, okay? One thing that was making him work hard was the fact that the orange head just kept yelling and screaming, wouldn't give him an opportunity, okay? But like I was telling somebody, at his age, your skills to really to jump up and debate hard and strong are diminished to a certain extent. So if you looked at him, there was times when he was gathering his thoughts, okay? And I mean, it wasn't no minute or 2 minutes or 3 minutes, but there was split seconds there. You could tell he was gathering his thoughts there. I don't know if it was the fact he didn't want to stutter through the comment or he was just at a standstill. You know, I've noticed a lot of that with his speeches and stuff he gives, you know, his fluency, how fluent he is when he's giving comments and everything. And that's just something that comes with age, okay? You know, we can't get around that. I mean, the man is 77 years old. You know, I don't expect him to be a debater as he was when he was 35 years old.
Well, we wouldn't want 35-year-old Biden because I think he's evolved a lot since then. But, you know, with respect to your comment, I think I agree with you in terms of him stopping and being deliberate about what he says. But during that debate, he had to give thought to, do I respond to the bullshit coming out of this mouth, or do I answer the question and make the point I wanted to make? And, you know, I think he had to do that every time he opened his mouth because Trump kept spouting lies and fake news and bullshit and personal attacks that had absolutely nothing to do with his ability to run the country or not. You know, his son was an addict. He overcame it. You know, good for him. I'm glad because a lot of Americans can identify with that. But it has nothing to do with his ability to lead and make right decisions to lead this country.
You know, it could have been a mixture of both, but I know he was at times he was very deliberate and getting his answer out, and for certain reasons. And I just know that he's no young whippersnapper no more.
Yeah.
I pray and hope that he will, get through 4 years. I mean, and it wouldn't surprise me if he gets through the 4 years, he'll try another 4 years.
Yeah.
Okay, if his health allows him, but your skills really start to diminish, at a certain point in your life as you get older. The older you get, you kind of slow down.
I will still take his diminished skills and a higher level of integrity compared to Trump. I mean, I trust that Biden would hire advisors that he would allow to do their job, that he would allow to speak to their expertise and make informed decisions. So Devin Patrick wrote, a lot of Trump supporters are faulting the Biden voters. So the same things that Trump brags about. Yeah. Well, that's what the right does. They project onto others.
Yeah, it works both ways. I'm sure people look at us as Biden supporters and say, "Guys, they really stupid to go out and support Biden. He's da 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 da." And then we turn and look at them and we say, "Look at them idiots," and we go to da 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 da. So I mean, everybody has the person they want to support, but we're supporting somebody that's mature and understands and knows how the government works. Here you have somebody who stood up there on the second level of the White House last night and thought he was Mussolini.
There's a big difference, though, and I say this to anybody who makes that opinion about Biden. Biden's sins were years ago, and I'd like to think that he's evolved since then. I'd like to think that Obama picked somebody with integrity that he could honestly work with. I think that if he had the same viewpoints he'd had 30 or 40 years ago, Obama wouldn't have selected him for whatever good job he did or not. I believe that. Trump is an immediate threat and danger to the country and the globe. If we were voting against Trump, Biden, and another candidate, I might vote for the other candidate. But we have these two choices, and we literally have to pick the significantly lesser of two evils. Because Trump has been bad for the economy, he's been bad for women, he's been bad for immigrants, he's been bad for people of color, he's been bad for small businesses, he's been bad for our immediate health and life and liberty. 200,000 Americans, if not more, have died as a result of COVID versus the 13 in Benghazi. So I was talking to Tony before during the show, and I was saying how the right is telling us right now we need to have empathy for Trump because he's sick and he's our president, and the left is so hate-filled and you're so hypocritical, blah blah blah. I'm like, really? You want us to have empathy for an administration and an individual who's been so detrimental to all of these groups, who has no problem with children in cages, who revoked legislation to have equal pay for women, who is willing to put somebody in the Supreme Court who's going to remove our rights to our bodies, and you want us to give empathy now? That's like a bully complaining when he finally gets his ass kicked and asking for no bully policy. It literally makes no sense. And then they turn around and say, well, two wrongs don't make a right. I mean, there's something wrong. I don't know if it's in the water, in the food, or what it is, but there's something wrong with these folks.
Well, it all goes back to Obama. I mean, a black man came into the White House for 8 years, and that just messed them up because they thought they had everything. Okay, we took baseball, we took the NBA, we took football. Tiger came in, and regardless of what he wanted to call himself, and took golf. We had track and field. We had everything.
Tennis.
And they just they couldn't keep nothing for us. We took tennis. Everything they were in control of, and they lost. Okay, so they were willing to give up all of that. Plus, Wilder down in Virginia became governor. And you had one other Duval became a governor. So they were willing to give up the little offices like mayor, governor, and everything. But they never thought in their wildest dreams that a black man would come into the White House. That's their ultimate seat of power.
Yeah.
Whites have always ran that ever since, the ending of the Revolutionary War. When George Washington came along, it was a white man.
Yeah. But they forget, we didn't take these positions by storm. We earned them. We were voted into those offices by people of that constituency. So, I still have to I try desperately to hold on to the belief that these folks only represent a third of the population, because if they represent more, we're really screwed, and it's just so depressing. But they were voted to be the mayor, the governor, the president. They won tenants.
But they were satisfied. Those are little positions. They satisfied with that. Throw them a bone here and throw them a bone there. We fine with that. Y'all be governor, y'all be mayor, but you can't be president.
Yeah, well,
a black man or a black woman cannot be president of the United States. This is our country. Okay? That's where the whole problem came in. This is our country.
Well, these people don't want a woman as president, regardless of their color. You know?
I'm telling you, Republicans, the racist Republicans, will put a woman in the White House before they'll put a white woman in the White House before they allow a black woman to get in the White House.
Well, yeah, sure. If she's an Amy Barrett type, of course.
Yeah, that's their thinking, But the whole thing was, they were sitting there listening to the knucklehead when he was running for president, and all he was saying, "Make America great again, make America great again." So they were thinking about Leave It to Beaver shows and Andy Griffin and all that kind of stuff. That's all they saw. The dog whistle, the words.
Absolutely not, Colleen. I don't wish that on me. Don't wish that on me.
So that's what they saw, and that's what they wanted. So it killed them. So now you got a small, and like you said, it is a small segment of the population. When he got about 35% of his base supports this crap. Yeah. They support this crap, man.
And a high percentage of them don't even know why outside of racism.
Yeah, and that's why they're trying so hard to make the judges as conservative as they can, from the district court to the federal court to the Supreme Court. That's what they're trying to do. I mean, I was reading an article today that Alito and Thomas are already saying they're going to work to roll back same-sex marriages.
Yeah. And based on, what did they say? That it has a negative impact on religious liberty? How? If you don't want to marry a man or a woman, then don't. It's really that simple. They can find a pastor or a priest that is willing to perform the ceremony. It literally has nothing to do with you. These are probably the same people who believe in conversion therapy, which is complete and utter bullshit and torture. It's ridiculous.
I think the only reason Clarence Thomas is doing this because the white pride told you, boy, you better get them and vote it off. That's the only reason. So we are in trouble as a country with a conservative branch of government, because if say they get rid of Obamacare and the Democrats get the Senate and the Democrats come back in February and put Obamacare back on the market, well, all they're going to do is file lawsuits to try to slow it down, and that's what's going to happen. Yeah, the bill might be there, it might have been voted upon, it might be law, but they're going to vote. They're going to stay in court to keep trying to slow it down and keep it from getting started. So those are the type of things they're going to do. If they decide they want to go against and get rid of Roe versus Wade, what can the Democrats do to stop them?
Yeah, no, we are. To put it in the eloquent words of our illustrious producer Tony Breedlove, we are fucked.
Yeah.
Good and proper.
So that's what the whole plan has been all the time. If we can maintain the courts for the next 30, 40 years, who cares if we don't have Congress? Who cares if we not have the Senate? Who cares if we don't have a president? But we got the courts, and the court's going to side with our little BS lawsuits every time we file one.
Yeah. I mean, I have a small hope that they won't. I don't know. I don't
have that hope. Because
like you said, we lost Ginsberg and one other position. So you're right. That hope is gone.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it, the Voting Rights Act needs to be updated. Okay, it needs it, and the bill is sitting in the Senate on McConnell's desk, but he just won't pass it.
Yeah.
We'll be able to vote, but the intimidation and everything else that goes along with it, we will not be able to get by. It's just like with South Carolina. The Supreme Court sided with South Carolina that we said they got to have the witness verification signature on that now.
Yeah. And another state sided with the governor and said that they would close however many of the ballot collection offices after so many of them were already mailed.
Yeah.
So let's put all of this together, right? He defunded the post office. They removed post boxes. They're closing ballot places, and they're allowing COVID to ravage the country. So in some states and some municipalities, you already have lines that last for 6-10 hours for people to vote. Now you add the need for social distancing and keeping 6 feet apart on top of that. It is going to be probably one of the toughest elections we've had since the first time people of color and women got the right to vote.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're doing everything. I mean, in Texas has one box for each county. Now, you take Harris County, which is the county where Houston is. Houston is the 4th largest city in the country. You take Harris County with one box to drop off ballots. You get the picture?
Yeah. And this is the guy who's supposed to support the Constitution and support and promote democracy. We have done more to support voting in third world countries and countries across the world than we are doing now to dismantle democracy and the ability to vote. It's just
crazy. And North Carolina has returned 11% of the mail-in ballots already.
I'm taking a day off. Of course they did. No, I'm taking a day off and I'm standing in line. And if I need to take 2 days off, I'm going to take 2 days off. No, I'm not mailing in my vote.
Well, I'll
wear a plastic sheet over me, gloves, mask, whatever I need to. But
I'm taking mine to the election office itself. I'm going straight to the election board and take mine because, like you said, these lines you already got to do 6 foot distancing, and these lines. I mean, even early voting. I don't think we have enough in my county to take care of early voting because a lot of people like the early vote, so they had to go out on the 3rd. It's going to be a mess. And I just refuse to stand in line 4 or 5 hours. I said, I'm just going to take mine, take it up to the election board office and drop it off like that, because it's going to, and they know, I mean, you don't want to see your grandmom out there 90 years old trying to vote, which you will do. And they're making it hard. They're trying to make it as hard as possible. I think, but it's not going to work. People are so fed up with the current administration that they will do whatever they have to do to get there.
And then the question is, will this administration allow those votes to be counted?
They don't have no choice, okay? Yeah. They don't have no choice. It's going to be
a
physical war, but it's going to be the courts aren't going to go that far. Now, I don't care what your leaning is as far as the justice is concerned. Do you really want to kill democracy in the land where it's supposed to be democracy?
These people don't care.
Look,
they don't care.
They care about their legacy, okay? They care about what the history book's going to say. And this is the thing. This is the thing, Sharon. If you as a justice decide to go along with this voter suppression and fight what the will of the people is, okay? You're going to destroy democracy, and we will go to our graves with an old beat up man on a walker named Trump still being president, okay?
Look, this Supreme Court, I think, is just as complicit and willing to bend the rule of law as much as possible to maintain power. That's why he picked Kavanaugh. That's why.
But you got to look at some of the rulings. Kavanaugh and some of those guys haven't gone along with everything. He's lost some cases that he didn't expect to lose. His thing was he would win every case he took up there. Now he hasn't done that. I think, and I hope, and it's my prayer that when it comes to voting and it comes to maintaining this country as a leading democratic country in this world, the buck has got to stop somewhere, not at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Okay,
we're not the lead anymore, though.
We're not. I mean, because we do everything. We do everything backwards. Like you said, we'll go tell Vietnam on how they need to make sure they have give the people the right to vote, but then we don't do it here in this country.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard. It's going to take now. Whatever happens now, it's going to take 30 or 40 years. But look, this is the thing I tell people. People die. Okay. You're going to die. You're going to be born and you're going to die. And in between, you're going to pay taxes, okay? Now, who's not to say that, and hopefully Biden wins, hopefully we get the Senate. Who's not to say that among those justices right now, we don't know the time of day we're going to expire. Who's not to say that one or two of those justices might not kick the bucket in the next 4 years?
Yeah.
And I tell people that don't keep looking on the gloomy side. There's better days ahead.
And now that's a very sad thing when the better days ahead is imagining people dying. But that's the state that he's put us in.
Yeah.
Right now.
Look at it.
Yeah.
Thomas wants to come off. He wanted to come off. But that big wife of his, she probably beat him down and told him he couldn't leave right now. He wants to retire.
How do you know that?
And I heard that about a month or two ago that he wanted to retire too.
Mm-hmm.
I look for him eventually to say, "Screw it, I don't want to do this no more. I'm leaving."
Not like he did much to begin with.
Well, he didn't because his boy wouldn't let him say nothing. Boy just told him to sit there and be quiet. But things like that, people having a desire to retire and people dying. We might flip this thing before 4 years is up, before Biden gets out of office.
Well, wouldn't that be a thing of beauty?
So we never know. We never know. I mean, and if people really want to, if the Democrats get in, they really want to get ahead, they can impeach them federal judges, okay? Because a lot of them are not even qualified. You got guys on the federal bench that didn't never practice law, weren't never prosecutors, just did pass the bar. So you got a lot of things in play, okay? So hey, it's a glimmer of hope out there, and we that's what we got to live off of. That things can change through death, okay?
I have to say, through the last 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
You have been very optimistic about the process of government working, whereas everything that Trump has managed to get away with has only slipped me further into a form of PTSD and depression in seeing what this administration has allowed and what the loudmouth third of this country is too blind to see.
Mm-hmm.
So I thank you for your optimism, because it leaves me on a Tuesday night feeling better than I started.
Let me say one more thing, because we're almost out of time. Let me say one more thing. The right-wing evangelicals, okay, whoever they are, had this notion and always was saying that, hey, this disease is because of this, God is doing this, God is doing that, okay? That he's the savior, okay? Now, and I'm just gonna go a little biblical on you right now, just very quickly.
I get my fan.
When you look at the Old Testament, there were a lot of men that quote unquote God put into positions, okay? But then because of that evilness and the things that they did, they were removed, okay? All right. And that's where I'm gonna leave it at, okay?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's I haven't thought about that. And you're right. Unfortunately, a lot of us have to suffer in the process.
Yeah, and that's what happened during that time. People suffered. But look at them now. Where those right wingers coming at now? You don't hear a peep out of them now.
I mean, he basically called himself the chosen one.
Sure.
We literally have a would-be golden calf in office, and they can't see that.
Yeah.
But as Tony said, we do have to get ready to wrap up, and we have 3 minutes left. So since Tony's not on screen today, she's asked me to pass along a message. Hot Topics Talk Radio will unfortunately not be airing tomorrow night, but instead we can come back on Thursday and watch Man to Man with the Truth Brothers, Ray Gage and Devon Patrick at 7 p.m. Pacific and 10 p.m. Eastern. So as always, It was a good conversation with you. And again, I want to thank you for giving me an ounce of optimism, because mankind is just depressing me left, right, and center. And we'll see what we have to. We'll see what fodder he gives us to talk about for next week.
Yeah, I know it's going to be a struggle, but I know at the end of the day we're going to get there. And I didn't say it's going to be easy, but I think we will get there, and things will change. And but a lot of work ahead. 4 years if Biden gets in is not a lot. There's not enough time to turn everything around. It's all about building relationships again, and other countries having trust in us.
Yeah. Well, I say if Biden wins, we should have a show with a laundry list of all the things that need to be fixed from Trump's administration, from the EPA, the Department of Labor, the FDA, scientists from the CDC in China, yada, 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 yada. Just go down the list. We need to make it as easy as possible for the next administration. Clean house. Get rid of, look, he made an example of getting rid of everybody that was hired by Obama. You set precedent. Fine.
Yep.
Clean house. Get all of those sycophantic, antithetical to American douchebags out of our administration so that we can start cleaning things up. Pardon my French. So with that, we'll say goodnight, and we'll let Tony shut us down. I hope you all have a safe week. Keep wear your mask, sanitize, stay safe, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay, peace. Good night.
Good night.